Then we also have Tabitha Njeri, our career expert. She says, I agree with Omosh. I'm worried that this will put African music on the sidelines and not get the global recognition the music deserves. So that's a debate that's still happening, that's still going on.
I mean, you know, we've got our foot in the door. We didn't have a category.
We didn't.
Just think about it. And okay, just think of it this way, right? How long has Fela been dead?
A long time.
And remember,
a very, very long time.
Fela was known as that chap who had that music that everybody listened to everywhere liked, in the world. He just happened to be African.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then, you know, we have also jazz artists, guys like Jonathan Butler, who are African.
Yeah.
You know, then you have the reggae artists, the African reggae artists, you know, kina Alpha Blondy, you know, people like that. So do you then say, okay, because now that we have an African category, then they would be thrown into the African category and they would not be recognized under the genre of music that they are actually hitting? Or is it because, I mean, you know, because they are, like, let's say Alpha Blondy is a reggae guy, right? So then you pull him from reggae and say, because he's from Africa and he's singing reggae, then he's in the African category.
Yeah, I know.
And you no longer pick him under reggae.
Yeah, and here, this is where, you know, like, in my view, right now, we're at a point where, you know, like, the world is looking to Africa for music. You know, like,
everything.
All these record labels have recognized that. I mean, they discovered Afrobeat, but I think the other thing they've discovered is that there's so much beyond Afrobeat in Africa. So they're kind of trying to go and try to find what is there. And this is where I think, as Africans, we need to pick a lesson from the Indians. You know, like when we compare with the Indians when it comes to movies or even their own music, you know, because sometimes with Indians, movies and music, they're all tied up. You know, like all Indian movies have music.
Music,
but
weather, and
they have their own awards. They have their own industry that can stand alone without recognition in the United States. They're selling their movies in other parts of the world, from Bollywood. Their music is selling in other parts of the world without necessarily the U.S. touching them. And this is where I think Africans, we need to think in 3 dimensions. The reason why, you know, like, I feel, which is bringing us to our next, you know, like, question, which, you know, I'm going to introduce the other people that we have in the studio to get different perspectives. You know, there are these selections, which I was going to ask, were these selections random, or was this a deliberate commercial attempt to get into other African music markets? Because Africa has had music for a very long time.
Correct.
It has recently, in the last few years, become very commercially viable. And then, coincidentally, the Grammys is now all over African music. In fact, when you look at these different genres, they've tried to spread the wealth across different parts.
They have no choice, because remember,
different parts of Africa.
The Grammys is supposed to be global, right?
Yes.
Which means you cannot say that you're going to pick one and leave the other out, or pick one region, leave the other region out. And if you look at that, you look at the categories, it looks like it's even very strategic in the way that they were picking, because at least every region imeguzwa
is represented.
Now, you know, we were asking about Sauti Sol, and to me, when I look at these categories, I think I would throw Sauti Sol under Afropop in terms of the type of music that they do. Even though for me, I think it's more R&B, but you know, it has an element of Africanness to it, because it, you know, we use the language. You know, Swahili is used very heavily within Sauti Sol type of music.
Yes.
So they probably would fall under the Afropop category in terms of genres, but then in terms of still being picked for a Grammy, it would be under Best African Music Performance.
Okay. All right. Now, before we go to Uno Mike, and we also have a Tanzanian in the studio, he's going to introduce himself a little bit later on. I want to read some comments.
Bongo Flavor is also in there.
Bongo Flavor is also in there.
Yeah.
So we want to, you know, like.
Yeah, I want to recognize our watu makina sijui.
Yeah, I think they added it there ndo asisikie vibaya.
Wale wasanii wa ile TV station inaitwaje wale
Channel 5.
Hapana, wale
ama East Africa TV.
Hapana, wale wako na nini yao, wako na TV station yao. Wale wasewa ule msewa nini?
Azam.
Hapana.
Okay, we basi once you figured out
ule Diamond ule.
Wasafi or the clean ones. Okay. Sawa.
Unajua unaweza sema hivi alafu tuseme Diamond and then all of a sudden tupate tuko na copyright issues.
Okay. Sawa. Yeah. By the way, unajua jina kama Diamond unaogopa hata kuisema kwa Facebook live stream because yani those guys have copyrighted everything.
Boss,
you might just say Diamond followed by Platinum and you're blocked.
I cannot play a song from Wasafi.
Anyway, Slay Up anasema basically all of Caliph Records. I think this was in response to the question of which genge music you think was Grammy worthy. And then Slay Odwara anasema Kapuka. Kapuka is not genge. Kapuka was actually the opposite of genge.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
In fact,
the beats, everything. In fact, they disliked each other.
Sana. Kapuka. And then there was so DJ Tucha anasema genge and gengeton ama just genge. You know, so that's a question.
Good question.
Yeah,
good question. But
yes.
I think if we say genge, because you don't have to add tone behind it. Just imagine it's Genge Star.
Yeah,
so anything that comes after Genge, it could be Genge.
But so unajua ni kama reggae na reggaeton, but those are different.
But you see, reggae. Yeah. I could be wrong. I don't know if I don't think there's a reggaeton category.
I don't know. You know, like I'm not sure
because reggaeton goes under Latin music.
Okay,
there is no reggaeton category. There is reggae, but there's no reggaeton. Yeah, there's no reggaeton.
Okay, and then hapa Udimadhenge anasema Nazizi. Nazizi was not genge. You know, but I think Udimadhenge is saying Nazizi was Grammy worthy. And then DJ Tucha anasema I don't think it's 90s genge. I think it's gengeton. And genge is not 90s. DJ Tucha, you're showing your age. Genge is really not 90s. Wow. I would say genge is 2000s.
And it's 2000s coming later.
Genge is 2000. So hapo DJ Tucha,
then again,
DJ Tucha is revealing I think he was born in the 50s, but that's a story for another day. And then Slayer pa anasema you know what like Ali said, I would like to know the process to adding these categories because there are so many categories in Kenya. That's very true.
And that now here comes the problem.
Yeah.
If you are to pick Kenya by itself and you pick the categories in Kenya,
there are too many.
There are a lot. Let's say let's say 10.
Yeah.
Let's just say pick 10.
Yeah.
That's Kenya alone. Then you go to our neighbors.
You have 50 countries.
Then you go to our neighbors DRC. You can't. You cannot work at them all. You cannot. So at some point, you have to say, okay, we'll pick this because those are the ones that are popular or are getting some coverage.
Yeah.
You can see that those artists are slowly grinding, they're moving, and their people are doing things.
Yeah.
But they had to have sat down with stakeholders in the different regions of Africa to come up with this list.
Okay.
Granted, there's things in there that are missing because I think that if anything, maybe I would have tried to add Zouk in there somewhere.
But Kizomba was added there, so I think
Kizomba
they kind of lumped. They're different,
They're
different, yeah.
But then now, if you throw Zouk in there, that means sasa wale watu wa Caribbean umewaleta huko.
Yes. So yeah, it's gonna be a mix and mashup. Stephen Bati anasema Genge started making the genre, then the Mababis and Islando people started making their own names. I don't know whether we would categorize Genge as Islando, but you see where Caliph is, Apo Caliph Isli Biafra. But it's a unique place. It's not like Buruburu, Jericho.
Boss, Islando, okay.
I'm talking culturally.
Okay,
you know?
Okay.
But now let's start getting nuance. I'm talking culturally.
Let's go to geography one.
And location. Hapa tutauliza nonini. So there's the location that's called Eastlands, but culturally ukienda Majengo, Biafra, Isli, California. Culturally they're very different from guys of Jericho, sijui Uhuru, sijui Umoja, sijui Buruburu. They are very different. Like hata mtu wa Caliph akiongea na mimi leo.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But see, isn't that just basically different neighborhoods? Ni kama kusema you're a guy of West. Msee wa West na Mada pengine mnaweza kuwa mnaingiana.
Yeah.
Lakini mkivuka tu muingie hapo nini
Langata
dog pound. Wacha hata Langata. Mvuke tu hapa dog pound.
Yeah.
Just over here ile shule inaitwaje?
Sunshine.
Upper Hill,
Upper Hill,
Don Bosco. Uvuke tu hapa Don Bosco. Pap, which these days they're calling Upper Hill, but it never used to be called Upper Hill then. But anyway, ukivuka tu uinge hapa Kenyatta. You're now
in a different territory.
You're now in a different territory.
Yeah.
Completely. And it's not even a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, hata kama unauza bangi, wewe huwezi kuingia hiyo territory. Yeye na muuzaji bangi tofauti.
Lingua franca yao ni tofauti.
Okay.
So to me, I look at it as neighborhood, connectivity, because I went to school in Eastlands.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, by the time nilingia, once you vuka Nairobi River, at that point unajua where you are.
Yeah.
Ukishaingia ziwa, uko hapa,
you have to be situationally aware.
Boss.
Yeah.
Hapa racetrack nini, and that was hiyo ndio ilikuwa neighborhood yangu.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, even the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, hata kama ulikuwa na mbota moja iko you have to wear it differently or don't wear it at all.
You have to be situationally aware.
Correct.
All right. So back to the comments to Sisao, because they're coming in thick and fast. Stephen Batty says there was a tweet yesterday by Juakali saying that akina Ted Josiah didn't want Genge to progress. Hapa ni wapi clapping back for him. Now, real quick, I was there, like when these wars were happening, like we were the guys on the ground.
Yes.
We were the guys who were, going for these concerts, nanini. And for me personally, where I was positioned, we were positioned in such a way that, culturally tuko accepted na watu wa Caliph, but at the same time, hii mziki inatoka karibu na kwetu. Huku South Sea, for example.
Yes, correct.
And then of course there were some of those upmarket areas. So I remember when these fights were happening, when Genge came out, there was so much controversy even on Capital FM at that time. I think if D'Souza was a presenter, Nonini was saying people should, because the original idea, they wanted to Kenyan music to have an identity called Genge.
And not to be called local.
Yes, not to be called local.
Yes.
But because of, the classism that's there in Nairobi, and this was classism and
yes,
nothing
it
more.
Sure was.
What was South B, they started coming up with their own names. That is, tuite Mziketu Bumba, tuite Mziketu sijui nini, and then Kapuka pia ikatokea na nini. But it was really to try to distinguish themselves from
and
how
to differentiate, from
our to
Caliph.
Caliph.
Yes.